couple minutes. As always, if anyone has anything they'd like addressed in the class, feel free to put a message in the chat. Okay, so let's sink into the room. Place your attention at the forehead and crown, eyes open. Let your vision take in the entire room at once. The entire room in your field of view at once. No hard focusing on anything. And just breathe gently from that space for a few moments. Notice how easy it is to still yourself when you're not hard focusing on any one thing. That timeless patience that isn't reaching outside of this moment, and so it can expand to fill this moment. Usually we are stretching ourselves through our past, through our future. Instead, we're going to expand ourselves to fill this moment. Soften your eyes. You should be able to see the periphery around you. And when that's stabilized, soften your hearing. Listen. The sounds of the room, the sounds of the sky above you. If you really listen, you can hear the clouds. But when you're really listening, in between all of those sounds, you'll usually hear a high-pitched ringing sound. When that sound comes, expand into that sound. That's how the ears experience pure consciousness. The eyes usually experience it as light. Many notice when they meditate that the room becomes brighter. The ears experience it as sound. The body as an energizing, calming vibration. That's your body trying to interpret something that is beyond the five senses. From your stillness, really listen. Notice how when you give your attention to it, it magnifies. And even spills into an experience of your feeling body as well. Nothing to conjure, just notice. Sink into your chair. Sink into this moment. And listen. You may think you're just hearing the wiring in your house, but test it someday. Go do this on a mountaintop. The sound is deafening. Out in nature. Listening to this sound of silence is a way to align yourself with your highest self. The part of you that is always above the story. The part of you that is the same as the part of me, that's the same as the part of everybody. There's a great mystery hidden in that experience when you've finally given yourself to it enough. That sound, that vibration, that light. You start to realize it's a message. A living, breathing message about the truth of you, the truth of life. It contains all of it. Don't think about it, just listen. Your body is like a sensory instrument. But the strings of that instrument are a little gooked up. But the more you give your body to that sound, the more you give your attention, the more it vibrates the instrument, the more the gook cleans off. And a time comes when that sound can play this instrument in a way where you can actually receive its message. For a long time, it's just a vague message of peace, wakefulness, rest, truth. But it grows into a kind of direct perception. That can become words when you're trying to teach a group of people, when you're talking from the silence. That can become a direct knowing of something you need to do, or how to rearrange yourself into a different spiritual state. And because it's always hooked in to the wholeness of life, whenever you are giving your attention to that sound, you are pouring your attention into completeness. Living dynamic completion. And over time, that's what comes back to you from the mirror of life. You run out of gas on the road, there's somebody there with a gas can. You get lost in another country, there's somebody there just ready and dying to take care of you. And in doing so, it completes something in them. I think in the Tinkly Bell New Age community, they call that synchronicity. In the pop spirituality that's taken over. But it's something you can show yourself. Just do it. Just practice it. And watch how life responds. The more you align yourself with it, the smoother things tend to go. Now, if you walk into a world that is antithetical to it, and yet you align yourself with it, it tends to be a force that shakes things up. Always in the right direction, but usually in ways that can be unpleasant for a while. So you always have to have a part of your life that isn't that, you know? If you're in one of those jobs, you have to have a part of your life where you can just experience what you have to learn from the intelligent, resonant, conscious silence that we participate in every week here. You know, people who have been coming to this class for decades have often said they're always surprised that there are new teachings or things to come forward from this class after so long. And what I always say to them is, no, there isn't. I've always taught the exact same thing. It sounds different because it's shining on a different audience, or an audience of people going through different circumstances. And it's a completing force. So it reaches out to that and tries to complete the story of incompletion in the minds in front of it who are ready and receptive. But the teaching's always been the same. You are already complete. You are conjuring experiences of lack through how you're using your attention. You can stop at any time. You can also stay consciously in a story of lack. We have to walk through a world filled with people who are using that lack as part of their strategies. It's how they motivate themselves. It's how they make things happen. It's the premise of everything humans find interesting. no, I don't have this and I need it. How am I going to get it? And then you struggle and then you get it. And then it starts over again. That's every show you watch on TV. That's every story you tell yourself. But at some point, the truth has to become the foreground and the lie the background. It doesn't have to go away. It's still going to live a human existence. But it can't be the dominant thing. Otherwise, you start stringing yourself down these stories of lack that just get worse and worse and worse. And after a while, you no longer vibrate in a way that can put yourself in contact with things that can wake you back up. I mean, anyone who ever really tried has a seed inside of them that when things get bad enough, they'll always come back. To me or to someone. I think everybody in this room has that inside of them. But rather than falling down a well and climbing out over and over again, spend time every day just listening. It's right there. It never left you. You left it. The second you give your attention to it, all the comfort that you were reaching for is there. Is it not? And if you steep yourself in it, it magnifies. And the longer you stay there, the more you become it. Are there any questions about that? Then let's sit in that and steep. Let it magnify. The mind is going to come in like a parasite because it senses all this energy for it to play with. And it's going to try and split it up into that boring old storyline. If you play with it, you'll get lost in it. So instead, let the mind be the mind, and you just be the listener. You just be the watcher. Watch, listen, feel. And when that steady vibration starts to ooze forward out of the woodwork of the imagery around you, Just give it your attention. Feel it, hear it, see it. You'll be dominant in one of those three things. Do that now. How quiet can you be? Can you make your breathing quieter than the sound of the silence? Listen with every cell of your body. And your body will be elevated. Lighter. Stable. Yet flexible and dynamic. Feel it deepen as you let go more and more. You are always meditating on something. You're always giving your energy, your vibration to something. When you're lost in the story, you're giving it to that. And it builds just like the silence. It builds in feeling. It builds in vibration. It changes how you sound. It changes how you look. Then you come here, and there's this transition that needs to happen. An abrupt shift into choice. And that feeling of discomfort is your body catching up. Cleaning those experiences off of you. So that they're less likely to determine your next moment. So that you don't have to live the same day over and over and over again. Listen. if you just felt that shift in the energy. When you're really listening to what is, you get to a point where you can feel what each person's contribution is to it. And as someone leaves the room, it changes. Happens to you all day. But you're not present for it. Being present for it not only takes you out of the story, but helps you understand the story. It helps you understand the causes and effects of your life. What part each little being and thing plays. Listen, feel, see. For many things, it's not a matter of good or bad. It's more like flavor, like the difference between describing the flavor of an apple or a pear. Really no words that could convey it, but a signature nonetheless. this state, life is in the process of reflecting it back to you, where your needs are mostly met very naturally. Some people, they make this their life. There was a woman, I think she called herself the Peace Pilgrim. And she just gave up any story of want and just stepped into life in this space. I think in the beginning just to prove to herself that life would take care of her. And it did. She hitchhiked all over the country. And she always just somehow had food. People were feeding her, caring for her, learning in the process, having experiences with her. Nowadays, there are people peddling easy answers about manifestation. This idea that if you just visualize everything properly, you'll have everything perfect. That's a little different than this state, though. It's not wrong to have wants. It's not wrong to have stories that you're participating in. And life will try and manifest them for you. But it's pulling from the things that currently exist. It's pulling from a limited list of options. If you're living like a peace pilgrim, then everything is just going to be a reflection of your signature, your flavor. When you need things to be a certain way, then you'll have all sorts of different signatures. Other people who, what you have in common with them is they needed something similar. And so you participate. But there's friction, difficulties. What most of us just have come to know of as life. But I think every day, even if you're not going to step out onto the road and just begin a nomadic life, I think every day it's really important to step into that consciousness, that freedom where you're not asking anything of life. You're just emitting you, the real you. Maybe life will have time to reflect that back to you, probably through peace and spiritual realization. The more you let it build, it can reflect beautiful things, miracles, really. You can come to learn how flexible life really is. Nothing wrong with wants, but every day, wash them off of you with this. Spend time here. Clear the canvas. Wash the mirror. So that what comes back to you is a healing reflection of what you are. Don't let a day go by where you don't get there, at least once. And then let your curiosity direct you from there. When you want to know it more, you'll spend more time with it. Any questions before we end for the night? Okay, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next Thursday.
Thanks, Lee.
Mm-hmm.